Hey guys, this is Lori with LM's Crafty Creations, and I am here to share a tutorial with you. And this is for my Authentique Heroic album. I did show a sneak peek on the Facebook page of the Scrappers of Country Craft Creations last weekend, I believe, and I meant to already have the tutorial up for you, but I filmed it and it was such a mess. I couldn't present that to you guys. It was awful. Like, I was not prepared, and all of my stuff got mixed up, and it looked like I just did not know what I was doing. It was awful. Anyway, so I'm going to refilm it for you. And so mine here has a 3-inch spine. Or, no, sorry, it's a 3.5-inch spine, is what this is. Yes. And, I think that you see how much this is already fully decorated and has all of my photo mats and everything in it. And this is how much space I have left, you know? There's a lot of room to grow here. I have this closure here, but I mean, there's a lot of room in this album, and I think it may be too much. So I'm going to let you guys judge for yourselves what you want to do. This album was made with a 3.5-inch spine and 3/8 of an inch gussets, and it has 8 pages. So, the one I'm doing right now, I'm changing it up, and I'm going to do 8 pages still. I'm going to cut it down to like a 2.5-inch spine, and I'm going to do 1/4-inch gussets. So we'll see how that works out. So you'll have the option, I'll put the measurements for both for the binding in the description down below. Now, if you're going to do 8 pages and use the hidden hinge system, you're going to need to join 2 pieces of paper together. So, because I thought that would be confusing, and honestly I didn't want to have to show it on camera, just because it is confusing, I decided to try the stacked hinge system for the first time ever by Laura Dennison. Stack the pages, or stack the deck, sorry. That's what it's called. I've never used it before. And I'm using it now because I like that I don't have to use score tape, and that I can glue these down completely, because these suckers, I've glued them down with my art glitter glue. It's not coming off, you know? So, and I do use a really heavy 80-pound cardstock. So I'm thinking, and also, I did also do 3/4-inch hinges, just like Laura does in her tutorial, to make them just a little longer, give them the page a little bit more to attach to. So I'll have the measurements for this in the description down below. This is using the 1/4-inch gussets, and I'll also have the one for the 3/8 of an inch gussets for you as well, as soon as I figure that out, which I haven't done yet. So there's that. For this tutorial, let me go ahead and give you guys all the measurements up front. You're going to need, for your base pages, you're going to need 8 pieces cut to 6 inches by 8 inches. So this album is really easy. Take 8 pieces of 12 by 12 and cut it in half, and then cut one piece at 8 inches, and then cut your other piece at 6 by 9 inches. So 8 pieces at 6 by 8, 8 pieces at 6 by 9. Okay, so let's see. Well, let me go ahead and run through the rest of the measurements for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and give everything to you up front. There are 2 belly bands in the album, and they measure 3¼ by 9. You're going to score on the 9-inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. And as always, guys, the measurements for all of my albums, it's always included in the description box down below. So just know that that is there. And there's only one actual pocket in the album, and it measures 7 by 3¾ You're going to score on the 7-inch side at 1/2 inch on each end, and on the 3¾ inch side at 1/2 inch. And then there are 4 flaps that measure 5 3/4 inches by 6 1/4. You're going to score on the 5 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on all 4. And then finally, you're going to cut 8 pieces at 8 pieces at what? Oh, there it is. Sorry, 5 3/4 by 7. Again, score on the 5 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on all 8 pieces. I do have 2 more measurements. I am going to have a corner pocket in this album, and you're gonna cut 1 piece at 5 1/2 by 5 1/2, and then you're going to score on all 4 sides. Oops, I'm not in frame. At 1/2 inch on all 4 sides, and then you're going to cut this square in half diagonally, just like that. Okay. What else? One thing I didn't cut to show you guys because I don't have the chipboard cover ready for this one yet is you're going to cut the pockets on the cover. So these large pockets right here, these are going to be cut them at 6 inches by 9 1/2. Score on the 6 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end, and then on the 9 1/2 inch side at 1/2 inch. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. Score on the 6 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then score on the 9 1/2 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. That's right. Good grief. Okay, I'm going to keep this one out so that I remember which flap goes where. So I'll turn it as I go. Looks like my daughter got syrup on my table, so sorry, I didn't get to clean that ahead of time. I already have 7 of my base pages made, so I'm going to go ahead and make the 8th one with you. So here we go. Again, I've already given you the measurements for these, and so you're just going to fold on your score lines and burnish. And I'm of course going to use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to put it right on the flap, and I like to do one at a time just to make sure I get it nice and even. I've gotten to where I use my art glitter glue for everything. Like I said, I liked doing the idea of doing the stack the deck binding system because I could use my art glitter glue easier on it than I think that I could the hidden hinge system for some reason. I don't know why, maybe that's just me. Let me find my little bone folder thing. So that's just personal preference, of course. Okay, here's our base pages. So when you do your covers, your chipboard covers, you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard cut at 8 1/2 by 6 1/2, and then 1 piece at 3 1/2 by 8 1/2 if you're doing the 3 1/2 inch spine with the 3/8 of an inch gussets, or you could do a 2 1/2 inch spine with 1/4 inch gussets, whatever you decide is best for you. Let me put these out of the way because they're just annoying me. Okay, so our first base page. On our first page we just have one of the larger flaps. So this flap is the one that measures 5 3/4 by 7. I'm just going to fold on my score line and burnish. And I'm going to put glue on the inside of the flap. And I'm going to stick it inside the page and center it as much as I can. And press it down. I made this album fairly simple, and I liked it that way. I thought it turned out really cute. Of course, a lot of that is whatever the paper is that you add to it, not necessarily always the design of the pages. So there's our first page, the front of the first page. So let's flip it over. So this will be our second page, and I have stuff all over it. And on the second page, you're going to take one of your belly band pieces, and you're going to fold on your score lines and burnish. And this time I'm going to add glue to both sides. And I'm going to stick it more towards the left-hand side, but you can do whatever you prefer. I'm going to leave about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 of an inch space until the end of the page on this side, and just stick it down. So I cut this at 3¼ inch so that you could mat it. Sorry, my camera kind of stopped responding for a minute. So that you could mat it with a 3x4 cut apart. So just know that that's something you can do if you choose. Okay, so our page 2 is done. So let's find a place to set this. Just have too much stuff on my desk. And get another base page. So on the third page, we're going to do one of these smaller flaps, and it is the 5¾ by 6¼ Fold on your score line and burnish. And then again, we're just going to put glue on the inside and center it on the page. So this should be a really easy and quick album for you to do. I think it would be one of those albums that makes a great gift. Hold on, guys. My computer keeps just acting crazy. Let me see if I can close out of some processes to get it to stop. Okay. Hopefully that's better. Sorry about that. Okay, so there's our next flap. Okay, now turn it over for page 4. And on this page, you're going to have flaps that are like this, that fold out. And they're both going to be the larger flaps, which are the 5¾ by 7. So on this first one, let's fold on our score line and burnish. And you're going to add this on the left-hand side of the page. And just center it. Whoops. Just be careful not to go over your score mark, of course. Now I'm going to leave this one on the table, and I'm going to bring out the next base page so for a reference. So this flap goes this way. You're going to take another 5¾ by 7" flap and fold on your score line and burnish. And you're going to put glue again on the inside. And you're going to stick it on the right hand side this time because it's going to be a mirror image, and center it as best as you can. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so this is page 3, 4, and this is page 5, and now we're going to flip it over this way. This will be page 6, okay? So on page 6 we're going to do the corner pocket. So I've already cut my 2 pieces for my corner pocket, and then I'm going to miter my corner here on each piece. And I'm going to fold on my score lines and burnish. And then I'm going to cut off what I call my wings. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, what I like to do with my corner pockets is I like to put glue on this hinge first and stick it down. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put glue on this hinge, and I'm going to stick it down on the left hand side, and just make sure it's all lined up at the bottom. And so I like to open this, and then I'm going to take my other corner piece and I'm going to put my glue right here on the top again. And I'm going to stick it on the right hand side. Whoops, too much glue. Let's open that up and get that cleaned up. So here's where it gets a little tricky if you do it the way that I do. I like to take these 2 pieces and fold them in on themselves. So this piece with the hinge, I'll hold like this, and I'll tuck it in here, and it will glue down just like that. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and put glue on both of the hinges. Okay, and then I'm going to take this one and tuck it in. And stick it down. It's a little bit messy, but it gets the job done. And I'm just going to burnish that really well. And there's my corner pocket. I'm just going to stick my bone folder in there and make sure I didn't glue any of it down that wasn't supposed to be. And we're good. Okay, what are we on? So set this piece aside. We're done with that. So this is page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was page 6 with the corner pocket. Now we're going to go on to page 7. And if you're counting pages this way, where front is 1 and back is 2, then this actually ends up being like, what did I say, I had 8 pages? 16 pages. So, if you're wondering, like, hey, I thought this was 8 pages, it technically is 8 pages, 1 page being front and back, if that makes sense. Okay, so on the next one, we're going to do a large flap again, the 5 3/4 by 7 inches. Fold on your score line and burnish. Again, glue on the inside of your flap. And just stick it on centered on the page. Okay, now turn this, that's it. That's all we're going to do for that page, so flip it over. And now on this one, we're going to do a smaller flap, 5 3/4 by 6 1/4. Fold on our score line and burnish. But this time we're going to put it on the right side of the page. So add your glue again. And we're going to center this one as well. as much as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect unless you just want it to be. I tend to try to measure as little as possible. Okay. And that's it for that page. So on page 9, for our next base page, we're going to add our one pocket that we have, besides the pockets that are on the front and back covers. I'm going to miter my corners. Again, the pocket is cut at 7 inches by 3 3/4. Fold on your score lines and burnish. And then let's just add it to the bottom of the page. Okay. And just should be even on all 3 sides. Or line up on all 3 sides. Does that make sense? And that's it for that page. On the next page, again, we're going to have the 2 pages that have the mirror double fold out. So you'll need 2 more pieces at 5 3/4 by 7 inches. And we're going to put this one on the left-hand side. Okay. Let that dry for a minute. I'm going to take another one and put it on the right hand side of the opposite page. Can't get it open, so I can stick it in the pocket. There we go. Again, centering it, don't go over your score line. Sound like a broken record, don't I? By now, I'm sure you all know these things. The one good thing about this album is that it is so simple that you can put it together quickly, and it makes a large album with large spaces for 4x6 photos. So I counted in mine. I didn't put any mats inside the pockets, but in mine you could hold over 50 photos. Okay, so on this next page, so we're done with these, so you can turn it over. And on the next one, it just has another one of the smaller flaps, the 5 3/4 by 6 1/4 flaps. And we're going to put it on the right hand side of the page. Glue's getting a little bit gunky on the tip. Looks like I didn't get that quite centered, but you know, not perfect. And that's all for that page. Now, let's see, what are we on? Page 13. This one's going to have another one of our belly bands. Again, cut to 3 1/4 by 9 inches. Fold on your score lines and burnish. Whoops. And again, I'm going to add mine towards the right hand side of the page this time. Again, giving it about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 an inch space before you get to the end of the page. And that's not straight. There we go. Okay. Now, done with that page, flip it over to page 14 now, and on this page again we're going to do the double mirrored fold out, so go ahead and get your last base page as well and get your last two 5 3/4 by 7 inch flaps, and then fold on your score line and burnish. And this one you're going to put on the left hand side. So on the left hand side here, centering, and then the other one you're going to take it and put it on the opposite side. So this one goes on the right side of the last page. Okay, so let's put this page aside and flip this page over, and on our last page we just have our last smaller flap at 5 3/4 by 6 1/4. Fold on your score line and burnish and add your glue here, and then just center it on the page. And there's our last one. So here we go. Here's all of our pages. Let's kind of run through them quickly. So we should have, dang, my light keeps going out. We should have a front flap here. Turn it over, you have a belly band and then another smaller flap there. Turn it over, and then you have the two flaps that fold out. On the next page you have the corner pocket and then another flap, the larger one this time. Turn it over, and then you have the smaller flap and then a pocket. Again, you have the double flaps here. Smaller flap here and then a belly band, and then the double flaps again, and then the smaller flap. And that is all. So I gave you the measurements of the inside pockets. The only other thing I can think to give you guys is that all of my photo mats in this album were cut to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I only did one like photo mat booklet, and that was cut to 6 1/4 by 8 1/2, and that's this one. And I don't mat on the inside because that's where you would put your photo. And I think that's it. I did a few smaller photo mats, and these of course are 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I didn't put anything in the pockets, but you could if you wanted to. And that is all. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. It was thankfully a short one. Again, I am in the album I'm creating now. This one will be with different papers because obviously I've already done my Authentique Heroic album. And for that album I did use, like I said, the 3/8 of an inch gussets with the 3.5 inch binding, and I used the hidden hinge system for that one. You can do that, so feel free. I'm not going to show you on camera how to join the two pieces of cardstock together for the 8 pages because you will have to do that because it will take more than 12 inches to do that. But I think that this stack the deck system is really easy, and if you're not familiar with it, go to Laura Dennison's YouTube and look up her stack the deck binding. And I've already mitered on my corners here, so that's why they look like that. But it looks like it's going to be really easy, and we'll see how it holds up. So that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for watching, and if you make the tutorial, if you make a book using my tutorial, please go to my Facebook page, LM's Crafty Creations, and show me your work. Thanks for watching.